If you want to know which palettes are my top 10 for a quick and easy look, then stick around. Hi there, it's Hélène with another video, and I'm so excited to bring you this one. I was thinking about my collection and thinking about, actually what made me think of this idea was the opposite. That a number of palettes I would not recommend to a friend who doesn't do a whole lot of different things with their makeup, because I think that a number of palettes are overwhelming. Either the number of shadows or the fact that it may not be easy for someone to determine how to put colors together. So I thought of a number of palettes where either I would recommend just use one or two shadows and you're done, or that there are only a few shadows and so it's easy to make a combination, and or that all the colors work together so it's easy to make a combination, if that makes sense. Now the first one, it's going from least recommended in my view to most recommended. And usually the least recommended of my top 10, it's still my top 10 recommendations for a quick and easy look, is if I think that there are a few snafus with the palette that would make it possibly hard for someone to use. So the first few are palettes with caveats, and then it gets to be more and more and more straightforward to the end. Number 10 is, I have talked about it a lot on this channel, I absolutely love it, and it is the Subculture palette. And somebody might say, what the hell are you talking about? I picked the Subculture palette, and I will put a video right here with my 2 looks in under 10 minutes. I would recommend this palette if someone is good with using 1 to 2 shadows per look. Fudge is fantastic on its own. Where is it? Mercury is phenomenal on its own. And Dawn is a very, very easy base color that you can easily mix with Fudge or Roxy or even Mercury. And if you look at All-Star, All-Star, what would I say? Yeah, I would say All-Star. All-Star, you can do a smoky eye with just a little bit more on the lid and blowing it out to almost nothing, very, very sheer at the top. These mattes are extremely workable. I would tell someone just use 1 or 2 colors and that's it. Just start off with that and you can look so put together so quickly with just a couple of shadows. So that is why I would pick the Subculture, because you can be 1 or 2 and done and look like you are very good at doing your makeup. So I really, really enjoy the Subculture for that. And usually I have much lighter looks than what I'm using for my eyeshadow today. It was very interesting. If you want to see that video, I will put it right here. It was I would say, my most challenging application on camera so far. Now, going to number 9, I am going to go with Colored Raine. And the reason I'm being cautious with the Colored Raine is because there are a lot of colors in it, but like or similar to the Subculture, I think that if you use 1 or 2 colors, you can do a really good job. So if you use only one of these colors in the crease, and then you use a shimmer on the lid, you can have a gorgeous, gorgeous look. And these mattes did make me think of Anastasia mattes they're powdery, but they're extremely blendable. I have definite favorites. I mean, if anyone were to use the orange or the kind of chocolatey brown in Duchess as the crease color, brow bone, and then any of these shimmers, they would look great. Every single one of these colors, at least on my skin tone, were extremely flattering. And I can see how so many people love this palette because it can, frankly, it can make you look good in 5 minutes. And not that we don't ever look good, but if you're looking to dress up the eye, 5 minutes and you're done. And I think that's a fantastic palette. Why is it number 9? It is because two things. Some colors that some folks would find a little bit intimidating, kind of like the Subculture. And the second one is that it is 12 shadows, and that can be a little bit on the higher side. Next up, I'm going to go with the Too Faced Sweet Peach. And it looks like this inside. Now, almost everybody has seen this. And the reason I went with this one next is that virtually every single shadow looks good with the other shadows. Now, possibly a few people would shy away from the black and these couple of colors back here, but almost everything else would create a flattering look for folks, assuming that they like peach-based colors. If you don't like peach-based colors, if you prefer cooler tone shadows, possibly you would not like this palette as much, although there are a number of shadows that are cool tone friendly. But I would say of this palette, it's really hard to screw it up. You're going to end up with a nice look. Of course, like I said, you may want to avoid the problematic colors here. Ironically, it's closer to what I'm wearing in my look. But yeah, that was definitely the idea that came to mind, is that this was a very, very safe palette. And if we eliminate the three that I'm talking about, then you've got 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 shadows less 3. You still have 15 shadows that are all very approachable and that you can basically see right just from looking at it that they all really mix and match. And so that would be my recommendation number 8. Going for number 7, this one is a little bit above the Too Faced Sweet Peach because of the fact that these shadows, I think, they're even more forgiving for someone who is not super adventurous for eyeshadow. And interestingly enough, you would see in here a number of shadows that would remind you of the Sweet Peach and a number of shadows that would remind you of Subculture. And in some cases, some of these shadows are dupes of some of the Subculture shadows. And I'll put that NYX versus Subculture video right here if you want to see a bit of a comparison. But the shimmers are beautiful, the mattes work really well, they're buildable, and they're pigmented as you build them up, but they're very mild application to begin with, and it really allows you to build your look up and up to the intensity that you want. And so I was impressed with this. And so I realized that this is a discontinued palette, but what that tells me is that when I consider NYX shadows for someone, that I would consider that they have those kinds of attributes, that they are buildable, you can work with them, and the mattes really surprised me. But if you're looking for a punch of color right off the hop, not a great idea. I'm talking more about folks who want one and done, and they don't have to worry about messing up their makeup and having to start over. So this is why this one would be number 7. Number 6 is a palette where I don't think that there are any combinations that do not work. And that is the Glitter Storm by Ciaté. Now, I was debating between this one and the Chloe Morello 2, and I chose this one for 2 reasons. Chloe Morello's 2 is 20 shadows, and I could see how there would be a lot of difficulty sometimes in finding appropriate combinations if you don't really know your way around colors. And this one is definitely easy because all of them go together, no question. This Glitter Storm, it will give you mattes if you want mattes. There are a couple of shimmers, and you can really ramp it up for any occasion with those glitters. And you can create looks that look like everyday and glam at the same time. It's almost like the looks that you come up with are appropriate no matter where you go. And that I think would be enticing to a lot of people. So I really recommend this one. It is in the sales section at Sephora, and I think it is a steal. I think it's $38 Canadian, and it's such a good packaging. So for someone who doesn't have a whole lot of eyeshadows and does there's a lot of cool to this palette, a few warm, but a lot of cool options as well, which is not that usual for a palette. I think that this would be really high up there as a recommendation from me, which is why it's number 6. Now into the top 5. my fifth, or going into recommendation 5 of 10, I'm going to go with the Lise Watier. And this is a quint, and I really got into this brand because of Drea CN talking about it. And never mind the little brushes here, but it is a quint, and it has a very nice mirror. So for a quint, it's very nice packaging, very luxe, and the colors in here are a no-brainer. Everything goes with everything. And not only that, it comes with a look book that tells you exactly where you can position the eyeshadows to make them look great. And if I want a purple look or aubergine look, I know I'm just going to go to this one and just be one and done, and it's always beautiful. Number 4, and I have talked about this palette recently in my top 5 bottom 5 brands, I think Buxom has fantastic eyeshadows. Fantastic eyeshadows. So when they come on sale, because they're really expensive individually, but when you can find a $50 palette on sale somewhere, I think it is great. I have this one, and so this is Dolly's Wild Side, and I also have the Suede, and I would love to have the other one. I don't remember what it is. Oh, May Continuity, I think, something like that. Anyway, this one is Dolly's Wild Side, and this is, out of the 3, this is probably the one I would recommend the most because it has a pop of color in here. Everything else is extremely, extremely safe. And because it has the pop of color, you can get a colorful look if you want. But most of it, I would say that this one is great for a day-to-day look for work or evening, whatever you like. And every single time I use this palette, I think, wow, this look came out great. So it does come to mind as a no-brainer palette for a lot of people. Number 3 was a real inspiration for this video, and that is, as I was doing my 3rd look with this palette, I thought, you know, if I ever just want a really quick look, 5 minutes, blah, 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 this is the palette I would probably just go for. If I don't know what I want and I need to be out the door soon, it will be the Marc Jacobs Frost palette. And that is because there are only 7 shadows. And as I mentioned in my review of this palette, which I will put right here, I basically said every single one of the shadows works with all the other ones. And it is absolutely true. Now, it does pull a little bit warmer than somebody who wants a cool look might like, but there are certainly some cool eye-friendly shadows in here. But every single look that I have come up with this palette has been a no-brainer, easy, 5 minutes, not a big deal. Yeah, they're very, very easy to apply, and they are all flattering on the eye. That said, it is a little boring. And unfortunately, the easier the palette is to work with, usually the more boring it is. But when it comes to ease of application and me recommending it for ease of creating looks, it is number 3. It might have been number 1, but its price tag at $59 Canadian for 7 tiny shadows could not have it at number 1. Number 2 is a little guy from Tarte, and it is the Tartiste Pro To Go. I bring this palette with me virtually every time I travel, not only because of its small size, but all 6 shadows go together. You cannot create a look that doesn't work with these 6 shadows, and I think that that is fabulous. It is very compact, comes with a mirror, and you open it up, and because the selections are limited, but still you have some variety, it feels like you have the best of both worlds. And you have cooler and deeper tones, you have a couple of shimmers to kind of brighten up the eye look, actually 3 shimmers. And so you have at least 3 nice lid colors, a couple of crease colors, and the requisite brow bone color. I love this palette. I think they did a fantastic job in selecting which 6 colors would go in it. And I would love to see more of these small palettes from Tarte. I do think this is the best out of everything they have put out though. And so I would love to see something as well curated as this one come out from Tarte again. And finally, this one made the top list because of its absolute simplicity. it can be a one and done choice for putting something on your lid and getting out the door. And that is, it's going to be weird, but work with me here. It is the Linda Halbari Metallic Mysteries 2. And the reason I chose it is because every single one of these metallics can create an eye look on its own. I have used these two to create a beautiful look, and I have used each one of these on their own to create a look. And every single time I have used it, I've thought, wow. And to me, the epitome of a good eyeshadow is one that you can use just the one shadow and create a variety of depth and dimension with the look. Now, are these the absolute best eyeshadows I've ever used? No, but we have an objective here, and that was what would be my recommendations for an eyeshadow palette where you can get a very quick, easy look. And this one, it's not only quick and easy, but with this color and this color, you can get a very bold and dramatic look if you want. But if you want an everyday, this kind of chocolatey brown is beautiful because you can go with chocolate brown on the lid and just smoke it out to the top, you know, to the orbital bone here, and it can look beautiful. I'm super impressed with this one. I have to say though, if you have a bunch of palettes, this is really pricey at $59 US just for this. But if you're someone who uses eyeshadow on occasion and you just want to have a palette that just packs a punch in a hurry and that makes you look like you got more skill than you do, this one's great. And that's why it got my #1 spot. Really weird as a #1 spot, but it is in that spot nonetheless. Now, if you are not a fan of color, I would argue that these two are neck and neck, and you would just pick the one that suits you, whether you are a color person or more of a neutrals gal. So that's it. Those are my top 10 eyeshadow palette or quints, or, you know, little guys, quads, that I would suggest if you are looking to have ease of use of your eyeshadow palette or palettes as you go about doing your makeup. So now over to you. Do you agree with these recommendations? What do you think? Do you have different recommendations, palettes that you would hands down suggest to anyone, and why? I would love to hear in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you spending this time with me today to hear those recommendations, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But for now, take care.